There we go. All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Movie Talks and Chill. We're your hosts. I'm Tony Serrato.
I'm Kevin Butts.
I'm Patrick Wall.
And in this episode, Patrick, you want to tell us what we're talking about?
It's our Halloween episode, finally. We've been building up to this, obviously, talking about a lot of spooky stuff, and Steve Martin. So we are finally talking about our annual tradition of Halloween movies, and this year we are talking about vampire movies.
Vampire movies. Now, real quick, before we get into the vampires.
I know, yes.
I have something I want to talk about.
Because
yesterday,
at the time of this recording, yesterday was Back to the Future Day.
Yes. Yeah, so happy Back to the Future Day, October 21st. But the thing I want to talk about, since we're talking about Halloween, even though Back to the Future has nothing to do with Halloween.
You told this to us a couple of weeks ago, and this still blows my fucking mind.
So, if everybody's watched Halloween, so the beginning of the movie, when
he means Back to the Future,
the original one, the first one.
But you said Halloween.
Oh, so since we're talking about Halloween, yes. Back to the Future. Thank you for correcting.
If you remember Halloween,
so there's
Back
no
to the
confusion. So in the movie Back to the Future, in the first one, so it's October 25th when Marty's at school, that gets blown out with the speaker, and then he meets Doc Brown for the first time meets Doc Brown with the DeLorean for the first time, and that's after midnight, so it's October 26th.
In the mall parking lot.
He
meets him for the first time in the Twin Pines.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the second time in the Lone Pine.
Technically, yeah.
So it's October 25th, October 26th when he travels. Obviously, when he travels back to 1955, it's November 5th. I'm not worried about that portion of it, but when he comes back, it's still October 26th because he comes back to the time when he left. October 26th is only 5 days away from Halloween. Not once in any part of the town is there any Halloween decoration put up in Back to the Future.
Were they Mormons?
The whole town.
The whole town.
The whole town of Hill Valley?
It was in Utah, right?
It was in Salt Lake City, actually.
So, yeah, that was my little observation. I've been telling people about it, and they actually agree that it's kind of weird. Now, I read a bunch of conspiracy and fan theories about it because I delved deep into it, and a lot of them said that, hey, because of the movie, because Back to the Future is almost a perfect movie. It's been known as being almost a perfect movie all the way around. And a classic. But they said it may have taken away from the plot line somewhat. Or maybe they just weren't worried about that in the plot line and just picking dates out randomly and all that good stuff.
My whole theory was they probably filmed this movie in like March. So even though the time said October, it was oblivious to them. Like, it's starting spring. Why the hell am I putting out a jack-o'-lantern at this point? That was my only... Have you read anything about what the directors or the writers have said?
No, I don't think they even really cared or were even worried about it. I don't think that even crossed, like you said, they don't think it crossed anybody's mind. But it popped into my head the other day because I've seen the movie 8 billion times. I know it by heart, as most people do. And that caught my eye the other day. And then yesterday was Back to the Future Day, October 21st, by the way. So we're recording on Sunday, October 22nd. This will be out on Wednesday. Let's not get too confusing about it. But it was Back to the Future Day on October 21st, celebrating it. It officially started in 2015 because October 21st in Back to the Future 2 was the date he went back in 2015. Was October 21st. Again, still no Halloween decorations, even in the future.
Also, we would like to pay homage to Tony Stark because October 17th, 2023 was actually the date that Endgame was supposed to take place. So,
oh damn!
R.I.P. Tony.
Yep.
It's supposed to be a spooky episode, not a sad one. Damn it!
We love you 3000.
It's
damn! I wasn't gonna cry on camera today.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
All right. So since we're
raining inside my apartment,
got something in both my eyes.
All right. So actual Halloween movies talking about vampires. I just wanted to get that out there. You guys. Do with it what you want. If you have a comment about it, as we'll mention again later, always send the comments, but let me know what you think.
Yeah,
all
agreed.
All right, so on to vampires.
Favorite vampire movies, like we always start off when we do these episodes. I know mine, but Gavin, why don't you go first?
Dracula, Dead and Loving It. Thank you, Mel Brooks.
That was on my list, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm pretty sure I know Tony's, but I'm not 100% sure.
I never drank wine. Thank you, Leslie Nielsen.
So you think you know mine?
I think I do.
All right, go ahead and take a guess.
The Lost Boys.
That's very close.
Oh,
that is a hard one not to say is a favorite.
Okay.
It's up there though. You want to guess? What is my favorite vampire movie?
Bram Stoker's Dracula?
Oh, God, no.
The black and white one from the 50s?
No.
Oh.
The one that was in 1992 with Keanu
Oh,
Reeves.
Keanu, yeah.
Even though we all love Keanu Reeves,
I mean, come on.
a horrible English accent.
Isn't that the movie where he said he technically married Winona Ryder
And,
I think it might have been.
I think
because
so, yeah.
the priest on the set was an actual ordained priest, so
Yeah.
technically they got married in the eyes of God on the set.
And,
But they didn't fill out any of the paperwork.
Gary Oldman was freaking Dracula, right? Wasn't
Yeah,
he?
I believe so. Yes, he was. Creepy.
Yeah,
Like,
creepy.
He looked like an old grandma.
Right.
like an old,
right. So did you ever
back in
see
the day,
Hotel
Grandma.
Transylvania? I think it's the second one.
Yes.
So where Jonathan is dressed up as like a vampire, that's the Bram Stoker's Dracula with the headdress and all that shit. And he's looking at him, he's like, "What is this? What are you supposed to be?" I'm a vampire. Not in this.
So can I have two, but because they're completely different genres?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So because it's hard, because if it comes to
I mean,
funny,
there are a lot of really good vampire movies.
there are, but
Yeah.
there are two that I battled with and I couldn't make a decision on. So
My backup for you was Dusk Till Dawn.
no, even believe it or not. So
Good, because that's my favorite. Spoilers.
comedy wise, Once Bitten with Jim Carrey. One of Jim Carrey's first roles.
I don't know that one.
So
was that before or after
was before In Living
Earth Chicks
Color.
Are Easy?
Oh.
Or Easy.
I think it might have been around the same time,
Okay.
but he was definitely young. I know it was before In Living Color. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, I think I don't know.
I
for
thought
a
Living
fact.
Color was his first role.
I think it was one of his first roles, like actual movie roles. But he's he's in high school. He's got his girlfriend, but he basically wants to get laid. He wants to lose his virginity, and his girlfriend isn't fully ready. So they're dating. So him and his buddies decide to go out to this nightclub thing where you pick up women, because it's specifically you sit at these tables and they have these phones that look like lips. So you call a table, and that's how you kind of meet.
Okay.
It's not a speed dating thing. It's just kind of like that's the setup of the bar.
You just get like a random number, or do
Sounds
you
like
call,
a Japanese
do you know
hostess
which?
club.
I think
what
it's
you
just
call?
you see the table number. I think it just
gotcha,
connects.
gotcha,
I think.
okay.
I mean, I didn't delve that deep into
Right.
it, but so anyway, there's the main point of the movie is there's this vampiress who needs to drink the blood of a virgin. I don't know if it's every year, but every so often, or every so many years, in order to stay immortal, stay young, because she ages if she doesn't, and she has to bite him 3 times in order for the whole whatever the ceremony
process.
thing or process, whatever it is. So the whole movie, like I said, it's a comedy, but he ends up meeting her. He thinks he got laid by her, so he's like intrigued, but he slowly starts turning into like getting vampire qualities, starts eating raw meat, just drinking blood. He starts having trouble out in the sun, wearing sunglasses and stuff.
Really doesn't like garlic.
And so the whole thing is, he figures out what's going on, and basically the end of the movie is because he has to be a virgin by the third sucking. And she walks
There's got to
in.
be a better way to say that.
by the third feeding.
There we go.
By the third feeding. So they're running around this mansion thing, this huge, obviously vampire mansion, and they finally catch up to him and they hide, and it's him and his girlfriend hide, and they're basically banging out in the coffin right before they break into the doors. And she's like, they've only been in there like a minute or two. And she's like, no, they couldn't have. It's like, he couldn't have. She couldn't have. And they're like, yep. And they come out just smoking. And so the curse
That sounds super familiar. I may have actually seen that. Just that, like, that sounds.
Well, also that part is in like Weekend at Bernie's. When,
yeah.
When the lady goes up, wait, she couldn't have. He couldn't have.
And she ends up.
Guy gets laid more alive or dead than I do alive.
So she ends up turning old. She doesn't die, but she ends up just aging back to her normal, what her regular age would be at that point. And then they have to go and find somebody else. But her and her little butler guy, who's like this gay black dude. He's like a gay black vampire guy or whatever, or minion. It's a funny movie though. It's really good. And I don't know if it was Courtney Cox that was in that played the girlfriend or not. So don't quote me. I'll have to look it up. But I think it might have been.
Okay.
Because at that time she was
like
doing,
before Friends at that point.
Well, yeah, so this is back when she did like Masters of the Universe too.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember that horrible piece of
I
garbage.
do.
Sadly.
But back to regular movies. So that was my comedy one. If you haven't seen One's Bitten, check it out. Very funny movie.
I'm actually going to talk about a movie that's a lot similar to that one.
Okay. But the one that my favorite vampire movie, because I loved it as a kid, and it's more of a serious one, is Fright Night.
Okay, I've heard of it. I don't think I've ever seen it.
They made a remake, not nearly as good, obviously. The people in the remake were good, but not. It was remade.
Yeah,
and it was just a beautiful, well done movie back then. And it's basically about this kid who lives in his house in the neighborhood with his mom. He's in high school as well, and somebody moves in next door. Well, ends up being a vampire, but he doesn't fully know it. He's slowly, constantly spying on him and trying to figure it out. And it turns out that he's a vampire, and he basically fights him off as they do. And he finds like a guy that's like a Vincent Price type,
okay,
who does a TV show about vampires. So he calls him up because he thinks he's an expert, and he ends up helping him and stuff. And I think it was Roddy McDowall, I think, is who played that.
Oh, okay,
who played that character. But that's actually a really good movie too.
Nice.
All right, Patrick.
So Patrick, which one's your favorite?
So like I said earlier, it is Dusk Till Dawn. I do genuinely love that movie. Everyone says, like, it's really creepy and weird. It's like, yeah, that's the whole point of that movie. Like, these weren't, like, traditional vampires. Like, they kind of turned into the vampires from Buffy, but it was Danny Trejo with a machete.
Yeah.
Like, that's just awesome.
But they also looked, like, way worse.
Yeah. But it also stars Quentin Tarantino, George Clooney, like I said, Danny Trejo, Salma Hayek's in it. And it's basically about this truck stop in Mexico where George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino, they just got done robbing a bank or something like that. So they're meeting up with their connection, who was Cheech?
Yep.
Cheech.
Cheech Marin. Who was also the
like
bar
the
guy,
man,
too.
Yeah.
We got all the pussy.
Oh, look here, applesauce pussy. If you can find pussy cheaper anywhere else, fuck it.
But George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino kidnapped this family to go to this truck stop to get across the border. And Cheech Marin just, apparently, at the end of the movie, he's just like, I pass it all the time. I just picked it because it was easy to find. But when the Tarantino and Clooney get there, it's a vampire den. And, like, Tarantino dies, like, pretty early in the movie, which is sad to say. And then Machete, or Danny Trejo, who played a character called Machete, dies. And basically, like, this former pastor and two kids are locked in the bathroom with holy water and condoms and squirt guns. And they just come out just laying waste to these vampires. But obviously, the dad dies. It's spoilers for a 20-year-old movie. Everybody
Pretty
fucking
much everybody dies.
Yes, outside of George Clooney and the daughter. And George Clooney, who's this actual criminal, the daughter is, at this point, has Stockholm Syndrome. She's like, can I just go with you? And he's like, you don't want to do what I do. And she's like, look, I don't have anywhere else to go.
Right, literally.
And he's like, all right, fine. So it's implied that she just now leaves a life of crime by, humping George Clooney.
Well, I think one of my funniest parts is at the very end when Cheech is up there. He's like, what were those, men? Were they like junkies? Psychos? It's like, Junkies do not explode when they hit sunlight.
And Harvey Keitel was the dad.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
I could not remember his name to save my life, but I knew he was a pretty well-known actor. I just like at the very end when they're all driving off, they pan out, so behind the truck stop is just like old diamond.
Yeah, it looks like a Mayan temple,
yeah.
like almost like the way the stairs and everything go down. Yeah.
So it's like the oldest vampire in like human history was there,
and yet no one fucking knows.
No,
Google Maps didn't exist then.
Nope. Also, you put Salma Hayek on stage, no one's really giving a shit about anything else.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Just go. All right, just take this side.
Yeah,
this is my good side.
Well, the other good thing about that movie, or the interesting thing I should say, is you don't even know it's a vampire movie for like the first 40 minutes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like the whole movie's going on, and you just
until
think it's like another
Tarantino dies, you have no idea.
Yeah. Till they finally get to the fucking bar.
Yeah.
But even then, I mean, the first part of the bar, it's like until that first blood drop from his hand drops or it gets exposed, that's when you actually real. But it's like 40 minutes into the damn movie.
The one thing I don't like is obviously this is a bar filled with vampires who just love preying on the people who come in. They tried to kick out the family when they first got there. You'd think that they wouldn't want to do that. The main guy, Gary Sinise? No, not Gary Sinise. The guy you just mentioned.
Harvey Keitel.
Harvey Keitel. He actually had to explain to the waitress, like, that RV out there is so large.
That was Danny Trejo.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't going to serve him at the bar at first.
Yeah, and he's like, to operate that vehicle, you need a CDL, which I have, which makes me a truck driver.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a trucker bar.
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing is, like, they wanted to do that because a lot of times those truckers are loners and, like, people won't come looking after them.
Yeah. See, that makes a lot more sense. Because in my mind, like, why would you want to kick out people? Like, if your food Uber Eats just rolled into the parking lot.
Uber Eats.
Fucking Uber Eats. Yeah, no, they already had Uber Eats there. DoorDash showed up for some unknown reason.
Is there a Tom H here? I'm looking for a Tom. I said meet at door.
I'm here for an owl, last name Kaholic.
No, but that is probably my favorite vampire movie.
Okay.
Close second is a movie called My Best Friend is a Vampire.
Yep.
Starring Robert Sean Leonard from House. He was Wilson in House. I don't know. Yep. Gavin, have you seen that movie?
I have not seen that movie.
Come on, Gavin.
So even I've seen this fucking movie.
I suck.
All right, Patrick, calm down.
Yeah. Sit down, 35-year-old Sharknado.
Yeah.
I wish I'd seen Sharknado.
No, you don't.
But if you haven't seen this movie, it's a great movie from the late 80s, early 90s. Basically, I'm just going to call him Wilson just because that's his most famous role that
Wilson?
I know. Not the volleyball. Dr. House's best friend. But basically, he gets bitten. He goes on a date. He gets bitten, and he turns into a vampire. And then he has to start learning how to be a vampire in the modern age. And he gets a vampire mentor, and he's like, most of the stuff you read is absolute crap. We can go out in the sun. Look, I'm perfectly fine. Lure a little sunblock, you do burn a little bit more than normal, but you'll be fine. And then he teases him, like, you don't actually need to drink blood. A lot of the butcher shops will sell us, like, fortified pig's blood wine. So he just has a mini fridge that's filled with, like, they look like V8 bottles. So he just undoes the caps and just drinks it. It's like, it's like a V8 in the morning. Puts a little Tabasco and vodka in there. It's a good old Sunday. What's really cool is he has to start shaving, and obviously the one thing, he can't see himself in the mirror, so he puts like his high school photo up on the mirror, and he just shaves based off of that.
That's awesome.
I mean, that's really funny, but also I don't think that would work as well as you thought it would.
I mean, well, they don't age, so...
So in that one they do, but they age 1 year for every 5 years. So he was really pissed that he was going to be going through puberty for the next 30 years.
Fucking reverse dog years?
Benjamin Buttons.
Benjamin Buttons.
In the movie, there is a vampire hunter who figures out that somebody was turned into a vampire, and he kidnaps his best friend, and Wilson tracks him down, and he's like, no, it's fine. He's a vampire. I'm going to put this stake through his heart, and he'll die. And he's like, you do that to anyone, and they're going to die. Like, why don't we just talk about this? And they wind up just, like, getting into this 1980s, like, mischievous, like, running away, like, Scooby-Doo gang, and then there's a slight car chase, and then he convinces the vampire hunter just to give up because he convinces him that all vampires are bad. It was a really weak ending, but it was genuinely a really good movie. So if you haven't seen it, My Best Friend is a Vampire, starring Robert Sean Leonard or Wilson from House. It's really good.
I also like that line. It was in Hotel Transylvania. He was like, so what happens if you go out in the sun? I get very sunburned.
Yeah.
He's like, garlic? Yes, I'm terribly allergic. Stake through the heart? Yeah, who wouldn't die?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
Well, you know, connecting to, so, of the Halloween season, or Halloween, and
Spooktober.
And vampire movies. So John Carpenter did a movie called Vampires. John Carpenter was also the creator of Halloween.
Yes, with James Woods.
Yep.
He also did The Thing.
That was a very unique take on the vampire movies.
I've never seen it.
You never? Oh, that one's a really good one. I mean, well, they're all good, but
the man's a legend.
Yeah, it takes a different take to, like, James Woods. Like, it's a whole group of people that are vampire hunters, and what they do is they find these nests. I think they call them nests.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's what they're called in Supernatural.
They're essentially employed by the church too, but they're like a it's kind of like the Vatican. Like, they police themselves.
They're the Avengers.
They're not part of the church, but they're employed by the church. Because they had, like, this at the beginning of the movie, like, they cleared out a nest and they have, like, this big fucking orgy at the damn hotel that they're at with a bunch of girls.
Now I'm just getting flashbacks to Sausage Party.
But
not that kind of orgy.
But there's the one scene, I think it might have been at the very beginning, like the first nest they take down. What they do is they walk in, they're all sleeping because it's daylight. They go on during the day. And I think that one guy, I don't know if they did it to multiple vampires or the one, but they put that chain around them, and then they just gunned their truck.
Yeah, that's
and
how
just drug them out into the sun.
That's how they killed most of them. Yeah, is they would stab them, and then they hook the Jeep up, and the Jeep would just take off and drag them out in the sun. And all you see is
that's some hatred. So if you've never seen the show Supernatural, they do take down vampire nests like they do in what it sounds like in that movie. There are a couple of scenes in that show where they're fighting vampires, and most of the lore in that show is garbage. The only way to kill them is to cut off their head. There is one scene where they're tussling in like a garage or something like that, but he gets his one of the heroes gets his hand on like a spool of razor wire and just pulls until his head just comes off.
I think Buffy did that in one of the episodes.
I think so too.
In the later, I think in the last season when they were fighting the Uber Vamps,
okay,
the
so
really tough ancient ones.
I barely remember. The last season is the garbage season. Like I barely remember that one. Once like the sister magically showed up, I kind of started petering out on that one.
She magically showed up.
She was magic, man.
But that's what she did in one of them because they were like ancient, old style vampire, like the master was.
Yeah, from the first season.
Yeah, they're like uber vampires, just like that. So they're a lot tougher and a lot harder to kill. Like just jabbing them in the heart doesn't work as easy because they've got like chest plate, like their bone structure is a lot tougher.
Okay,
or it's like more medieval or whatever.
Yeah.
Ancient. But there's one she just gets this like wire cord and she just keeps pulling right through the neck and it just pops off.
I do miss that show.
The movie was funny.
I love the movie.
I mean,
Pee Wee Herman was freaking hilarious in that movie.
I like when he gets stabbed in the heart. It's like an 8-minute death scene.
And he like looks back at it.
Then he goes down and comes back up on the screen.
He's like, he fades down and comes back.
Well, you had I can't remember what's her name that played Buffy. She's a well-known girl, but you have Donald Sutherland.
Donald Sutherland was the
Watcher.
mentor. Yeah, the Watcher.
And then you have Pee Wee Herman. Luke Perry's in there. David Arquette.
He was Pike.
Christy Swanson.
That's right, Christy Swanson. So, that's
side note for Luke Perry. I just got double sad watching Riverdale because he was the dad on that show. So when they were filming it, he passed away from cancer. So in real life, we all had to deal with the passing of Luke Perry, R.I.P. But the show loved him so much. Episode 1 of season 3 is he died on the show, so they spend like an episode and a half like dealing with that. I was like, my God, I can't take this anymore. I swear to God, I'm going to start watching 90210, you sons of bitches.
But that is a funny movie, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But the show was way better because that's what Joss Whedon said. The original movie, he wanted the movie to be like what the show was. But because he was kind of he was newer to the scene of film, I think, at that time, if I remember correctly. And he had been doing, like, TV. Like, he was a writer on Roseanne and a couple other shows. And so I guess they just didn't budge. They said, hey, it'd be better coming off more of a comedy.
Right.
But then when he had the opportunity later, he was very disappointed in the movie.
Well, I mean, that was the thing, is it felt a whole lot more lighthearted than the show did.
Well, the show was dark.
Well, the show was super dark, yeah.
I mean, it was a dramedy because it had a lot. I mean, it was very dark, but it had comedy bits.
And for a lot of the time, it was like a Monster of the Week kind of show.
Yeah,
and they kind of just went to unexpected places with that at times.
That was actually really only the first season was designed like that, where it was like a different, like it was a witch and then a different vampire, like you said, Monster of the Week. After season 2 came in, that's when they started following the formula of let's have a full plot line for the entire season because you had.
Well, there was always a Monster of the Week, but like you said, they did introduce that overarching arc.
Yeah, the storyline. So you had Spike come into it, and then he was only supposed to be a quick character. Like he was supposed to be in and out.
I liked him as a bad guy. I hated it when they started dating. I thought that was bull.
Yeah, well, a lot of people did.
I mean, come on, she started dating Angel.
And then he got his own show, so he
dumped
dumped her.
Yeah, he got his own show.
She didn't know he was a vampire.
That's true.
Yeah, but he dumped her to get his own show, and then took Cordelia with him. She left the show to go join that one.
Old Charisma Carpenter. But yeah, so that movie's funny. But there are a lot of good ones. Lost Boys is definitely that's a phenomenal. That's an old school phenomenal.
I haven't seen it in years, but it is a fantastic movie.
Michael, I'm out now, Michael. I love the ending because the whole movie, the grandfather's in it, and then he's like, everything's fine except for all these damn vampires. Yeah. But it's like he knew it the entire time, but
the
never
whole
told
fucking
them.
time.
Yeah.
I think that's one of Kiefer Sutherland's like best roles, in my opinion.
And we can also go into.
And I say that knowing I've watched the show 24 like 3 times, like all of it.
He was really good in Flatliners too.
I haven't seen
he
it.
was the original Flatliners,
Yeah, not the remake.
not the remake.
I know he was the
Not
bad
the
guy.
remake
Spoilers for the
sucked.
movie Phone Booth with Colin Farrell from another 20 years ago. He was the bad guy in that one. You
Yeah,
see
but
him for like 30 seconds at the end.
That was a very young Kiefer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was a young Kiefer
That was
right
just-
there.
that's young right there.
That
He's
was-
he was pretty good in Young Guns too. Don't take that away from him.
But I love
I'm
when.
not taking away any. I'm just saying Lost Boys was really good of him.
Well, the best thing is when the Frog Brothers, Corey Feldman and the other guy, they meet Corey Haim for the first time, and they were the ones that were all into comics and stuff.
Oh yeah.
in Lost
That's
Boys.
when they first moved in.
Yeah,
to
when he
the
first
town.
moved, and he's like, "Pray that you never have to
Yeah.
call us." He's like, "I pray that I never have to
I-
call you."
Well, we always talk about how we always bring it back to the Marvel universe, but
Yep.
we have 3 Blade movies.
Yeah.
I did want to talk about Blade, and I always forgot for like the longest time that was a Marvel character.
We're not going to talk about Morbius, so
What's
we'll
Morbius?
talk. But yeah,
Morbius exists, and we acknowledge it, and that's as far as we stop. Or as far as we
That is a movie.
Quote
it
me,
happened.
That's a movie.
It happened. But yes, Blade.
Blade, loved 1, 2 is decent, and then the only thing about 3 that was good was freaking Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
And Jessica Biel.
Jessica Biel for the looks, Ryan Reynolds for the comedy.
Yeah.
Well, that was another one that they took a little bit of a different take on it too.
They did, yeah.
I mean, you had your traditional thing about like sunlight and all that good stuff, but it was more on the thing like that's really when they started bringing up the idea of silver. Now, silver's been in the mythos of vampires for a very long time. It's just never been
For the
focused
longest
on.
time, I thought silver had nothing to do with vampires and was only for werewolves.
So that's most people think that. Yes, silver is a werewolf thing, but it's in the mythos of vampires. Silver has been existing as being they're allergic to it,
Okay.
Right.
and just like sunlight and everything else. But
When you think
Blade
about
really
it, like,
brought that
vampires
in.
are all powerful, but it's dual-edged swords. They are weak to a lot of fucking shit, too. They have so many weaknesses.
Yeah.
I'm not really too afraid of vampires. Like, oh, I have a UV light. What are you going to do?
Oh, you got superhuman powers. You can't come to the beach.
You can't come in my apartment unless I let you.
Yeah, right.
What are you going to fucking do? I have a flashlight with a purple bulb. Is it UV? Is it not? You want to find out?
Yeah, test me, bitch.
Well, it's like that's another thing that kind of comes and goes too. A lot of movies have the
Some of the
whole
mythos, yeah.
of where you have to invite them in,
Yeah.
whereas other ones it's just you don't. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But
He
I
just
think
shows
it
up.
stays pretty strong with the you have to invite them in. Don't invite them into your home.
Rainfield in that
Oh,
one.
I wanted to talk about that.
When he goes back to his apartment and he's in there, he's like, "How did you?" He looks back at the mat and it says "Welcome." He goes, "Damn it!"
There's an old sci-fi show where a vampire, a werewolf, and a ghost were all living in the same like apartment or house.
Sounds like a bad bar joke.
it's actually based off a British
werewolf and a ghost
television
going
show,
to a
but
bar.
They're at the gates of heaven.
it's actually
Wait.
really good. But the inviting them thing in the inviting them in thing. So the vampire just goes on a like turning spree, like turns like a group of people into vampires, and like his head vampires, you should not have done that. So he's like, bring them all to like your little mechanic shop or whatever place you own, and then meet here tonight. So he did that, and then he signed over the deed to the other vampire, and he's like, I no longer allow them. So the entire basement of this house just erupted in flame because those vampires were no longer invited into the house. That was a nice little twist they put on in the show.
Okay.
What was it? Maybe it's something in Buffy. I'm not sure, or what movie. If you guys can help me remember it, there was one movie where they used that theory of like inviting him in, but it was only there was one that somebody said come on in, and the vampire thought he had him, but he couldn't enter because it wasn't their home.
Oh.
I can't remember what show
That
or what
does-
movie that was in, but there was something where they just get stopped and he's like,
Right.
he doesn't live here.
Yeah, yeah.
So it has
This ain't
like
his
some
place.
places, some you go to that extent where they say it has to be your home that you
Yeah.
live in for you to be able to invite him in.
Right.
Yeah. And that does sound familiar, so I'm going to give a little extra 10% to Buffy, but I'm once again not 100% sure on that
Yeah.
one. But that does sound super familiar.
You're not that guy, bro.
So, and this is another thing I think was in another show or movie. There was one where they could basically reverse and just. Was that what you were just saying? Where they basically said you're no longer welcome?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he was
Yeah,
saying.
you were saying, yeah.
And so I've seen. I remember some movies like when they say that and like the vampire gets dragged out of the door.
Yeah.
But the one that he was talking about, they just
They died.
erupted. Yeah. You died.
Yeah, well, they also barred the doors, so like they were also in like writhing in agony, like they can't be there, and then they die.
So they probably had a chance to escape, but they just blocked them.
Yeah, the other vampires just like locked all the doors and windows so they couldn't get out.
So let me flip the script on you real quick. What do you think is one of the worst vampire movies you've ever seen?
Oh,
I can start this one off right now.
I know it's really bad, but it's so bad. I know I watched it twice, and I can't tell you a single plot point outside of Mila Jovovich stars as a vampire called Ultraviolet.
Oh yeah.
I remember it didn't blow me away. I was like, oh, it's Mila Jovovich in skin-tight outfits with a sword and a motorcycle. Sign me up. Like, wow.
So
I
you
just
mean
kinda
Resident Evil?
The first one,
I mean, come on.
well, that's a zombie movie.
Yeah, but still the same premise.
The first one I liked. I generally liked the first one. The second one's all right, but they crammed like 3 video games into one in that one.
Yeah, they did.
And then the rest, they either just made up or they crammed every piece of video game lore they can find into a single fucking movie.
Have we talked about this yet?
Yep.
There was one of the movies. There was a game. Resident Evil 5 came out, and they were actually parts of that game were in the movie that released 6 months later. I was like, I'm glad to see you're working with Capcom, but no.
This can't be your whole damn plot.
No. And also, they're not even zombies. This is... No. In the video game, no.
We will not have this.
We will not have this.
So mine on the sucky vampire movies is kind of a cliche because it's meant to be bad, but it was Vampires Suck.
Okay. Oh, you
That
almost...
movie did
I
suck.
almost yelled at you because I thought you were about to say mine, what I was thinking. And it starts similar, but go ahead.
Vampire Diaries?
No.
Interview
Twilight.
With a Vampire?
No.
I mean, yeah, Twilight pretty much.
No, mine is, and it has a great actors in it, and one of my favorite.
Vamps.
Vampire in Brooklyn.
Oh,
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
to me was one of the worst. And I hated it because
that
I really
got
love
to
Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It got to Eddie Murphy for a vampire movie.
How about Vampire Riders with a Z? Apparently, it's a movie.
Have you seen it?
No.
Then you can't be yours.
I already said
Worst
I already said mine is
ever.
Ultraviolet.
Well, touche, you did. But no, I like that because like when he's the preacher, that's basically the voice he uses for Sherman Klump.
Yeah.
And Nutty Professor.
Yep.
He's like, God damn anyone here that don't catch on fire in the church.
And it was supposed to be like his breakaway into. That was around the time when he was trying to break away into more serious stuff or different genres. Because if you remember, he did that movie Metro with what's his name? I can never remember that guy's name, but he's been in a bunch of stuff. But he was trying to do like that was a cop movie, but that was a more serious like drama type thing. It wasn't like a Beverly Hills Cop type thing.
Well,
but
even like I guess the 48 Hours were kind of more like
They were
a Beverly
comedy.
Hills Cop.
Yeah. Well, you got Nick Nolte on the other side.
Nick
hell,
Nolte. It sounded like he smoked cigarettes since he was 3.
But did you ever, Pat Niles, a real quick side note, speaking of Nick Nolte, did you ever see that bit where he was going to be auditioning for Han Solo in Star Wars? Like, he had an audition set up, and Patton Oswalt, the comedian, was talking about it. He's like, can you imagine? He's like, hell, Chewbacca, fix a goddamn hyperdrive. Jesus Christ. He's like, he always has to say, oh, hell, and Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And fix a goddamn hyperdrive.
hell.
Chewbacca,
It's like Richard
Jesus
Dean Anderson
Christ.
with Crying Out Loud.
Or I got nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Crying
so
out
yeah,
loud.
Vampire in Brooklyn, not
Yeah.
good. No bueno.
Some good one-liners with Eddie Murphy still in there. He
Oh
was-
yeah, no, it felt like they were trying to do this dark, serious thing, but they were instilling
And
like
you hire
his comedy.
you hire a comedian and let him loose doing
Yeah,
comedy.
it's basically a vampire version of Coming to America.
Yes,
'Cause,
it
you know,
was.
That sounds great.
It literally was.
on paper, in theory, sounds solid, but when you see it,
Minus the happy ending.
yeah. But yeah, there's. God, I'm trying to even think. There's so many. Oh well, we didn't mention Interview with a Vampire. Not as a bad movie.
No,
just so
no.
we're
Just
clear.
a good vampire.
Yeah, I
movie.
just wanted to get your idea of bad horror movie, vampire movies.
But Interview with a Vampire, I remember watching it when I was in middle school or high school. I remember liking it with Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, and all them.
Christian Slater.
Christian Slater.
Kirsten Dunst.
Kirsten Dunst was in it.
Kirsten.
The hot girl.
Yeah, right.
From Bring It On.
She was 10.
Yeah, she was.
I'm thinking of.
Damn it,
No
Dunst
bueno.
for bringing
No
up-
bueno. No bueno.
but
What are you
I
gonna bring
do-
up next? The Professional? Shut up.
No.
Well, she actually said she felt very uncomfortable in some of those scenes in Interview with a Vampire when at that age.
Yeah,
'cause-
and Natalie Portman said the same thing when on the set of The Professional. Like she was feeling wildly
Oh
uncomfortable.
shit! One of her lines was, "He's my lover."
Yeah,
I mean,
and she's fucking like 11 in that movie.
no bueno.
Yeah.
No bueno.
stop it. We're recording.
So overall, I remember watching it. I remember liking it, but to tell you any specific detail is escaping me at the moment.
Well, I mean, it was a long movie too. It was like 2.5 hours, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Maybe
basically
three?
Tom Cruise was Lestat.
Yeah.
And he finds Brad Pitt, who's I don't think Brad Pitt was well to do in that movie because it's all back in Colonial.
He wasn't. Yeah.
Or before that,
He was
over
like
overseas.
I think he was just like one of the
I think
maybe like I don't know if a peasant, but like one of the workers or something.
Yeah, and he
wasn't
basically
one of the aristocracy.
yeah he turns him because he gives him the gift of immortality, and they have to he has to learn
But he
how
gives
to
him a
feed.
choice too.
Well,
he gives him
him
a choice.
Is it just him or does he give everybody a choice?
They didn't give Kirsten a choice because
No.
they did her whole family.
That's
and
right.
he didn't. I think it was Brad Pitt's character. He didn't want to kill her. He wanted to turn her because he was like, I can't kill a kid. But
Yeah.
the whole rest of the family, oh yeah, you guys are done.
Yep. You guys are all done.
You did.
So
You did.
Basically, they take and they're living the life. They're just traveling around, and then they meet with the Kirsten Dunst, and they bring her on almost like their daughter. Then,
Yeah.
so they're
Yeah.
kind of raising her. But I love that. I do enjoy that scene. She was really good in that scene where she's starting to realize what's actually happening to her. Like she's now a vampire, but then she wants to cut her hair. And she cuts her hair, and it grows right back, and it's freaking her out because she gets angry at them, like why? Hey, basically, how could you do
She's
this
gonna be
to
10
me?
years old the rest of her life.
Yeah, she'll
Yeah.
never experience getting older. So that was an interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun high school
And
prom
then at
for
the
him.
end, if you remember that scene where they have if I remember, wasn't it in that, or am I mistaken for another movie where they basically they trap him in that thing, and it's the woman and her, and there's basically they put him in a tunnel thing that's gonna have the sunlight coming out, so they're gonna burn. Is that? Am I thinking of Interview with a Vampire? Or is that a different movie? But she basically holds her because it's like this woman who's also a vampire. She's like holding her because they know it's gonna happen. So what happens is they leave them in this almost like a well type thing.
It was like when they went to that other place to try and stay, and they found out that they tried to kill. Well, they think at this point they believe they killed Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And so you're not like one of the coven laws is you're not supposed to kill your own kind.
Yes, that's
so
what it
they
was.
find that out. Brad Pitt ends up like being away doing something, and they're basically going to kill Kirsten Dunst, and this woman tries to protect her.
I think they succeeded. So because
did.
she
Yeah.
takes on like the mother role.
She does.
And they put her in. It's almost like a well.
Yeah.
And it's got this thing, and I don't know
And
if
they open the ceiling.
if they either remove it or they're waiting for the sunlight to come up. But
Right.
she's like crying, like the little girl. And the mom's like, "It's all right. We're here together, and basically this is gonna happen."
Yeah, she's like rubbing her
and
head
then,
and shit.
Yeah. And then they and the next scene you see is like they're just both dust.
Yeah.
Aw,
Yeah. So that's their way of torturing and killing their kind.
that sucks. No pun intended.
You get to see a lot of that also in the Underworld series of movies.
I love
Yep.
the first one. I thought the first one
Oh,
was
the first
amazing.
one was great.
Yeah.
Speaking of someone in tight,
Yeah, right.
Freaking Kate Beckinsale. Oh my god, I'd get pregnant by her.
Yeah.
Sorry. Is it hot in here? Or is it just me?
Definitely ain't you.
Wait. Okay,
There's electronics around it.
yeah. My
Yeah, be
bad, my
careful
bad.
with the water.
My bad.
We still have about 20 minutes left of audio to record.
It's a whole lot of heat from the undercarriage.
Actually, it's holy water.
Oh,
I know you weren't watching the Disney Channel around the time, but Gavin, do you remember an old Disney Channel original movie called Mom Has a Date with a Vampire?
I don't think so.
Oh. Well, it's a really bad one. It's a
Okay.
made-for-TV movie. It was a DCOM, a Disney Channel original movie. Not to step on another podcast that I listen to called Mom Can't Cook. They've already dissected this movie. But if you want to watch a really bad child's movie about a single mom going on a date with a vampire and two kids, like, oh my God, I think he's like a vampire. We have to stop him. And then just, crazy Disney antics to like save their mom. Don't watch it. Skip it 100%. Just don't waste your time. Disney Plus is filled with Star Wars and Pixar, a bunch of other good things. Do not watch.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
If you're my age and you watched the movies when you were a kid, you have my sympathies. I was there with you. Do not go back and watch it.
He means if you're old.
Like me.
Old.
Just not as old as Tony.
No bueno.
Hey.
No bueno. No bueno.
He's here. Shut up.
I'm 45 years young, motherfucker.
Yeah, bitches.
Shut up.
So,
And there was silence.
and
Well, I just came across a movie I've never heard of before called Lesbian Vampire Killers.
Whoa. That's a shocker to you?
Yeah.
lesbian vampire killers.
Yeah.
Did you hear that tone in his voice?
I
I
did.
just came across a movie I'd never seen before.
Never even heard of.
Huh, interesting.
That is not on the Disney Channel. Just
No,
so you know.
this one
So
is
you
not
mean 90% of the other films that
They're
are out
women
there?
Yeah,
that have
yeah,
been
yeah.
enslaved by the local pack of lesbian vampires thanks to an ancient curse. The remaining menfolk of a rural town send two hapless young lads out to the moors as a sacrifice. That's all it is.
So I have to now quote Blade 3, Ryan Reynolds' joke in the movie, or one of his jokes. What the one lesbian vampire said to the other lesbian vampire. I'll see you in 28 days.
Oh, that's gross.
Wah, 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 wah. Ba-dum-bum. Shh. Is this thing on? Hello?
God, I
hello.
hope not.
Come in, heaven.
Well, now, so here's one that was up for debate on some people, that I Am Legend.
Yeah, so they think that the monsters that the vaccine created were vampires instead of just like regular monsters.
Now, there's a reason for that, because
They only come out during night. They stay in nest clusters, and they actually do drain. They eat people, like they suck their blood.
But I mean, sunlight hurts them.
Yeah.
Well, the thing was, in the original book was called I Am Legend. But there's been, I think we've talked about it before.
Yeah, you mentioned that the one with Will Smith is like a third iteration of that movie.
Yeah, and that's actually the one named after the book. The first one was called Last Man on Earth, which is with Vincent Price.
Okay.
And that one has actually vampires, where he has stakes and stuff and goes after them. The second version is my favorite one. That's called Omega Man with Charlton Heston. That was in the 70s. In that one, they weren't really vampires. So I mean, they had a pigmentation. Their skin would turn completely white. They would get like albino eyes. Like their eyes would just turn like white or change color. But they weren't so much. They never really explained that they were vampires.
Yeah.
They just took a different take on it. But then I Am Legend, they actually more look like vampires. Like in Last Man on Earth, they basically look like people. And he was basically
Well,
a
if
vampire
Vincent
hunter.
Price is in the movie, he was in the 50s, so costumes and makeup weren't as highly detailed as they are nowadays.
They were amazing.
Oh, damn. That was a triumph of cinema.
Tell that to Mary Shelley.
Ooh.
Yeah.
The author? Sure.
Yeah.
Her words painted a picture.
I mean, Frankenstein.
It was a great book.
It was a good movie, too, the original one.
Sure.
That had good makeup.
Yeah, why? Yeah,
I said he would rule the day he was born in Frankenstein.
But I still like when, was it Frank Elliott or whoever was talking about Robert De Niro doing the Frankenstein monster. He's like, I am the Frankenstein monster.
Oh, yeah.
I got bolts in my neck. I'm electric and scary. Ooh.
The Frankenstein monster. Ooh.
Look at me. Huh? I'm the Frankenstein monster.
Because he did play in one of those. I think it was the Frankenstein.
Yeah, that's what he was talking about.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
like, can you believe Robert De Niro
Right.
played Frankenstein's monster? But yeah, so the vampires of the world. What else we got? I'm just trying to think in my head. I mean, there's so many others.
There was a Netflix one that was
Day Shift?
The Day Shift.
That
yeah.
one was
Yeah,
really
yeah.
good. I
That
like
was
that
pretty
one.
good with Jamie Foxx
And Snoop Dogg.
and
With the minigun.
The young, you know who I'm
Franco.
yeah, the young Franco.
Yep.
Oh, not Donnie.
James.
No,
That's the one who just got
That's
fired
the
from
real
all.
Franco.
the young one.
Yeah.
Jason something that
Yeah,
James'
that-
little brother.
little Frankie.
The other Franco.
The other Franco.
Franco 2.
Franco Jr.
There is a vampire movie that I was really excited to see when it first came out, and then I walked away a little underwhelmed. Like, I thought there would be a lot more vampire killing, but there was only like 4. So in the mythos of this one, you become a vampire hunter or killer, but you have a job, you're doing your normal thing, and you only, when you know there's a vampire, that's when you go out and kill it. So this guy went through like his late teens, early 20s, all the way up to when he got shot in the head at a theater in wherever that theater was.
John Wilkes Booth.
Yeah. So it's Abraham Lincoln, the Vampire Hunter. So if you ever seen the movie, he goes.
Oh yeah.
So he trains on how to be a vampire killer, and when he does fight vampires, it's dope as hell because he has his axe from when he was like 10 that he just keeps sharpening and using on vampires. But he only kills 4 in like his entire life, and I was a little.
But doesn't he kill a bunch of them on that damn train?
I think maybe you're right, because I remember when he got to the point where he was a president, he's like, "It's time for my 4th kill."
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, "Wow, damn! I thought there would be like you were gonna lay waste to the American vampire sooner or later."
Lay waste.
The movie was alright. I thought it was like the most interesting premise in the world that Abraham Lincoln, besides being president, was also like, yeah, I found a vampire, honey. I'm gonna go outside for a few minutes, come back with a bloody axe. Like, yeah, we're good.
I mean, it kind of makes more sense now that his wife was crazy.
Well, they gotta have hobbies too.
As to why she was crazy.
Well, one of the other comedy ones I want to bring up real quick because it's not all about vampires, but it focuses the main character, and it's based off an old TV show, an old soap opera version TV show called Dark Shadows.
Okay.
That's the movie that Johnny Depp played in. That they made a comical version of what the show was, but it was the first ever soap opera type show. It was a soap opera, but it was about a house of vampires, and they had other creatures in it here and there. It was almost like a very serious version of the Munsters.
Okay.
Oh, that sounds boring.
Shut up.
Did any of y'all see the movie Daybreakers?
Yeah.
With Ethan Hawke?
Yes.
No.
So the premise of the movie is that the vampire gene or whatever is essentially a virus, and so they had to or rather most of the population has turned into a vampire.
There's when you're done.
So like so just imagine like how you see all the traffic and everything during the day here, like the city is blank during the day. But then at night is when like, all right, so from, I work the whatever to whatever shift, most of their travel is underground subways and stuff. So life is essentially the same. They're just vampires, and blood is in everything. Coffee, milk, like whatever you're consuming has blood in it.
Okay.
But that's the premise of the movie, is that there's so few actual humans left that there's no blood supply to keep the vampires alive. So they start reverting into like primal state, they turn into freaking monsters.
This is sounding a little bit familiar. I think I may have seen that movie.
So he essentially ends up finding a cure.
Yeah, he's a doctor, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So he was
and
trying
doesn't he get
to find
killed in like a
substitute.
beer vat or something like that?
Yeah. Wine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So,
yes.
Yeah, I remember parts of this movie.
He was trying to find a blood substitute, and he ended up finding the cure for the vampire quote unquote disease.
Yeah. There's a show on Netflix, which I'm not the biggest fan of Ian Somerhalder, but he's a decent actor. But he was in a show called V-Wars. Basically, he's a doctor, and his friend is a pilot they go to the Antarctic, and they find a very old like disease, and the pilot gets infected, and he turns into a vampire, and he basically just starts turning other people into vampires and other people, and then more different kinds of vampires start emerging, because they found this one virus in the Arctic. Ian Somerhalder.
So it's a virus.
Yeah. Ian Somerhalder.
Why is vampires a disease?
Right?
Yeah.
They're vamp shaming. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
But so Ian Somerhalder is a doctor, and he's been working on this cure, and through the whole season he gets really close, but his best friend, he's starting a revolution, basically just kills his entire family. Spoilers from a show that's 5 years old. They give it a cliffhanger to where there should be a season 2, and I was really hoping there would be, because Ian Somerhalder is like the last scene, he's just doing pull-ups. And then somebody comes in and he's like, "Doctor, we need you now," and he's okay. And then he picks up like an M16, like loads the mag and cocks it. He's like, "All right, you're a new character in season 2. I really want to see where this is canceled."
And nope.
Yeah.
Wasn't Queen of the Damned
Yeah.
a vampire movie?
Yes.
I think I only saw that one time, and I think I was like just playing it in the background. I don't think I ever really sat and watched it.
I only watched. What was the singer's name? Who was the queen? It was Akasha was like her name.
Akasha.
In the movie, but she was like the singer that died in the plane crash, real young. Oh man, I can't think of her name.
Yeah, again, I had it playing like when it was out. A friend of mine rented it like back at Blockbuster.
I'm not going to pronounce this. Apologies for butchering. Aaliyah. Yeah, but it's spelt a little weirdly.
Well, yeah. She's an artiste.
Good for her, but I mean, come on, man. Make it a little bit more pronounceable.
No.
Well, you can't tell her that because she's dead.
Yes. Well, I mean, I could say it all I want. She still won't listen.
Oh, she's listening.
From hell.
There's a movie called Blood-Sucking Bastards.
Yeah, I saw that on my list.
I think that's kind of aptly named.
The only one I got on my side is the blood-sucking lawyer.
There's also one called Holly Blood.
Ooh.
Well, no, there's one, though. I can't classify it as a vampire movie. It has a vampire in it, but it has all the monsters in it. The old...
Hotel Transylvania?
No, it's a Monster Squad.
Don't know it.
Have you ever seen that? All the kids. It's a 80s movie, and it's basically these group of kids in whatever age they're in. They have this whole... they call themselves the Monster Squad, and they like just read up on like the Wolfman and the Mummy and Dracula. Well, they all end up being real, and it's just a fun little movie. It's a kids movie, but they start wreaking havoc on the town, and Dracula's in it. And there's a couple famous lines in there because they're like the kids earlier in the movie are arguing whether Wolfman has nards. And he's like, no. He's like, but no, he's still a man. And he's like, so at one scene when they're getting attacked, like the kids are taking on this thing, and one kid knees him right in the fucking sack, and he's like, and Wolfman goes down. He's like, Wolfman does have nards. And but the best thing is it goes back to the old thing of to send them back to their portal because Frankenstein's monster's there too.
Okay.
To send them back to their portal of existence, the special incarnation or thing ceremony has to be read by a virgin. And so the one dude's sister, who one of the guys likes, she's like, I can read it. And she's like in high school or whatever. And she starts reading, nothing happens. And she's like, are you really? And it's like another Vincent Price older guy that's helping him. He's like, are you sure you're a virgin? She's like, well, so-and-so doesn't count. And the one brother's like, what do you mean he doesn't count? So then they have he has his little sister who's like this little girl, and it's read in Latin. So then they have her read it, and then it opens up the portal. But
what do you mean he doesn't count?
He doesn't count?
How have we gone this whole time and not mentioned Mr. Hugh Jackman in Van Helsing?
Yeah.
That was largely in
that was a largely bad movie.
I mean, come on. It had Hugh Jackman as a werewolf and again Kate Beckinsale. Oh, my God.
Anyway, so we talked about it. There's the Van Helsing plug.
Next.
How about a good movie, What We Do in the Shadows, starring Taika Waititi?
Yep.
A lot of my friends at work, they've only heard of this because of the TV show. They've only seen the TV show, and every time I tell them I've only seen the movie, not the TV show, they're like, there was a movie? It's like, yeah, it's what started it all.
It's what started the TV show.
And it's Taika Waititi and all of his friends. They're in New Zealand, I think they're in, not Australia.
Yeah.
And it goes along the same lines as British humor. Very dry, but if it lands, it's hilarious.
That's right.
And there are two jokes in that movie that it's the funniest movie in the world because of these two jokes. One of them is they're all vampires living together, and one of them's like really just upset and brooding, and he's in like his like little den or whatever, and just on the computer at night, and his friends like come in to like try and cheer him up. He's like, God, why don't you guys just go away and let me do my dark bidding? They're like, well, what are you bidding on? It's like, oh, this nice table for the dining. And like a little web page of eBay is up, and I was like, that's hilarious. And then because it's also like a mockumentary, so where they sit down in front of the camera and talk to it like The Office. And one of the guys like, is it true that you guys only like to drink the blood of virgin? And he's like, we don't need to, but just think of it this way. If you ate a sandwich, how much better would it taste knowing that no one had fucked it?
Leave my PB&J alone, man.
Yeah. Hey, man, I like my PB&J. Why you put nuts in it?
In my last vacation, I did watch a few episodes of the show, and one of the guys from the movie is in the show, and he's still hilarious. So I'm going to see if I can track down a way to watch it now that I'm home.
Nice.
But that is a solid vampire movie, especially like the werewolves, and they're like, hey, get the fuck out of here. And the other, like the pack leader goes, hey, we are werewolves, not swearwolves.
You swear at me.
Get the hell out of here.
You dare swear at me, man.
So that movie is I think I've said it before. I'm not the biggest fan of British humor because a lot of times it is dry, but that movie they do it correctly. In my book.
Do you swear every day?
Fuck yes.
That's not what I meant.
You went to GW.
Yeah.
Did you pledge? Every morning.
Every morning.
Oh man, but we are about out of time. We only got a couple minutes left. Want to mention up, some of our stuff, but wrapping up. Any final thoughts on vampire movies?
Solid genre. No matter from Twilight to Ultraviolet, there's something for everyone. There are a lot of great movies out there. Not as many bad ones as there are with other genres, I would say. So if spooky season is upon us, go out and watch Interview with a Vampire.
Yep.
And not Mom Has a Date with a Vampire from 2000.
Or Vampire in Brooklyn.
Or Vampire in Brooklyn. Although on paper and what Tony described sounded amazing.
Yeah, when you look at it on paper, but it does not pan out that way in the theater.
Watch My Best Friend is a Vampire, Robert Sean Leonard.
And Once Bitten.
Yes.
And also another dirty joke that I've seen on Instagram lately is if semen contains a million lives, why don't vampires suck dick instead of blood?
Ew. On that note, but since it is Halloween season, guys, so when this comes out, you'll still have a few days before to prep for Halloween.
This will come out about a week before, because this goes on Wednesday and the following Tuesday is Halloween.
Yep.
We wanted to put this out before Halloween and not November 1st.
Hence
That's right.
Spooktober.
Indeed.
Yes. So you guys go out there, be safe, get some candy, dress up, scare the hell out of somebody if you want to. It's what the holiday is all about. But before we go, remember for the show.
And if you're an actual vampire, hit me up. I want to live forever.
We would love to have you on the show. Yeah. Obviously at night.
Yeah.
But don't forget, we continue to be on all our platforms. Check us out on WDBFradio.fm, WDBFradio.com. We are available on YouTube as well. If you visually want to see these faces, it's
I don't know
wonderful
why
for
you would ever want to do that.
Check it out.
Fucking masochist.
Yeah, it'd be like, oh my god, it is Halloween.
Take off the mask.
But where else can they find us, Patrick?
We are also on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and basically any podcast platform sharing site. We are there. We're also on SoundCloud through our website. We are everywhere. But our main audience is on Spotify, and we love you guys. So if you guys could like, subscribe, comment, and hit that little bell icon, you know how all the YouTubers say, smash that like button.
Yeah.
Just so you're notified when we make a new post or a new episode goes out. That'd be great. And I still have my contest going out. I don't care if it's 2 words that say fuck and you. I will read it. I will read an email on this podcast if you send us an email to talk to us at movietalksandchill.com. I will do it.
And
I may not do it with a straight face.
And still also, we are still in time, waiting on for the beginning of the year of 2024. We only have a couple months left of this year for Elevation Media. We will be on their streaming service coming soon. They're just still getting all that set up. A couple
little setbacks have happened, but they've gotten the ball rolling again, it looks like.
Yeah, and it's all contract stuff that I don't want to know about because
I had to be involved in the contract stuff, and I don't even want to hear about it.
It's legalese and my head hurts.
Yeah, I need a beer.
So yeah, check us out on all those. But once again, thank you all for joining us for Halloween episode. Happy Halloween to everybody for Movie Talks and Chill. We're your hosts. I'm Tony Serrato.
I'm Gavin Butts.
I'm Patrick Wall.
All right, guys, take care.